Hi guys, today I'll be taking a look at a lesser known tactile switch, the SP-Star Polaris Purple. Let's get started. Now, these purple switches are part of the Polaris lineup, which include two other linear switches, a 67 and a 57 gram variant. Obviously in today's review I'll be talking about the tactile version. Now, in terms of the switch itself, it's bog standard. It has a POM stem and a polycarbonate housing according to polartype.com. However, with that said, SP-Star makes a variety of other switches and fancy colorways, as you can see from these pictures, and I'm not gonna lie, they look quite nice and out there in terms of design, which I know there's a big market for. Just ask JWK. Now, in terms of pricing, these currently go for around £7 for 10 switches on AliExpress, placing them in the mid-range segment. And this is what they look like when disassembled. Feel free to pause the video. Now, let's move on to the switch categories. On-center key presses are very smooth with only minor scratchiness for some keys. Off-center key presses are decently smooth, but there are noticeable instances of scratchiness when typing slowly. Either way, as long as you keep typing above 30 words per minute, you should be fine. Overall, I wouldn't call these top tier by any means, but they are very impressive, especially given their price. 7 out of 10. Now, according to the manufacturer, these switches actuate at around 50 grams at 2mm, bottom out at 67 grams at 4mm, and has a peak tactile force of around 65 grams at 1.5mm. However, this is very inaccurate. Firstly, the force curve shows the tactile bump just before the halfway point with a 1mm pre-travel, but the thing is, these switches don't have any pre-travel, not even a little bit. The tactile bump is right at the very top of the key press, although all of the other figures seem correct. Overall, the weighting is on the light side for me, but don't get me wrong, I do still like it, and ignoring the force curve issues aside, this is a switch I can recommend to anyone looking for a more tactile MX Brown but don't want to get too tactile. 7 out of 10. Now, sound is very nice. I could easily refer to them as thocky, but not overly so. 7 out of 10. Now, take a listen and enjoy. Now, actually typing on these wasn't too bad given its light weighting. I do still prefer something like the Durock T1 or the MX Clear for the weighting, but these are smooth and consistent unlike the MX Clear. In fact, these feel like lighter, less tactile MX Clears, but they are still noticeably more tactile than MX Brown and its clones, so this really is a solid middle ground. Strangely, however, my W key has started to make clicky noises. Take a listen. This is also the case with a few other switches, but it's most prominent in the W key. I have no idea why this is, but it does remind me of the Kalebox Royal, if you know what I mean. Now for another downside. The switch installed in my right shift key had a tendency to occasionally bind and stick down when pressed off-center, just like the Durock T1. But unlike the T1, it happened more often with these switches, and I almost replaced them with something else because it was really getting annoying. But after a week it resolved itself. It's probably something to do with the break-in period being longer than usual. Overall, early teething issues aside, it's a smooth and consistent switch to type on, although I'd like to see a V2 in the future addressing these issues. 7 out of 10. Now, gaming with these wasn't too shabby. It personally wouldn't be my choice as it's not as tactile or as heavy as other switches, although at least these are smooth and consistent enough, which are important aspects in making a good gaming switch in my opinion. However, the main issue I had with them was the weighting, not so much the tactility. You see, I like to lean on the keycaps sometimes with some force when gaming. It's a bit like half pressing the shutter button on a DSLR camera before taking the picture, and with these switches being light on my fingers, they cause drifting in an FPS game for example, or worse, accidental key presses. Overall, whilst it's not for me, if you're looking for a smoother, more consistent MX Brown, take a look at these. Alternatively, if you're looking for a lighter Durock T1 or MX Clear, this is a solid choice as well. 6 out of 10. In conclusion, this would make for perfect starter switches for anyone looking to level up from a cheaper keyboard, whether it be from MX Browns or its clones. It's honestly a solid choice and I'm glad SP-Star is offering them at a fair deal. The final score for this switch is 34 out of 50 or 68%, a long way from the Durock T1, its closest competitor, but that's a good score considering the performance it offers. Anyway, next time I'll be looking at another tactile switch from a manufacturer on the rise. Until then, take care and goodbye.